Throughout Chinese history, imperial tombs were guarded by stone lions and towering warrior statues symbolizing power and authority. But one emperor chose something very different. In front of his mausoleum stood 6 warhorses, each carved with arrows piercing their bodies, muscles tense and scars visible. They were not shown in triumph, but in pain. So how brutal can it be when your job is to serve as the boss's bodyguard? Today, we're talking about Li Shimin, later known as Emperor Taizong of Tang, and his legendary companions, the 6 steeds of Xialing. Unlike the emperors in modern dramas who calmly direct battles from behind the lines, Li Shimin was a frontline commander. He personally led charges into enemy formations, riding with his elite Xuanjie cavalry straight into danger. When your emperor fights like that, the horse beneath him carries enormous pressure. These 6 steeds followed him through the wars that founded the Tang Dynasty, and none of them died peacefully. On the battlefield, they were more than mounts. They were shields absorbing arrows meant for their rider. One of them, Huan carried Li Shimin during a fierce campaign against Liu Haita. By the end of the battle, the horse had been struck by 9 arrows, yet it continued to charge until victory was secured. Only after the fighting ended did it collapse and die. Another horse, Saluzi, became part of an even more dramatic moment. During the Battle of Luowan, Li Shimin was surrounded by enemy troops. Saluzi was hit in the chest by a deadly arrow as the situation turned critical. General Qiu Xingong rushed forward, leapt of his own horse, pulled the arrow from Saluzi's chest, and gave his mount to Li Shimin so he could break through the encirclement. Qiu Xingong then fought on foot, cutting down enemies to protect his lord. That scene of loyalty and sacrifice was later immortalized in stone. When Li Shimin became emperor, he did not forget these silent comrades. He composed poems for them and ordered their images carved into large stone reliefs placed beside his mausoleum at Xialing. For over 1,000 years, the 6 steeds stood as symbols of Tang military spirit. But in 1914, during an era of warlord conflict and foreign plunder, looters smashed the reliefs and tried to smuggle them overseas. 4 were eventually recovered and are now preserved in Xi'an's Beilin Museum. The other 2, including Saluzi and Quan, were taken abroad and remain in a museum in the United States. These horses once carried a warrior emperor through fire and steel, yet today they are separated by an ocean. The 6 steeds of Xialing are not just artworks. They represent loyalty, courage, and the cost of empire, and they remind us of a painful chapter when cultural treasures were scattered far from home. Perhaps one day the 6 will stand together again, reunited on the land they were carved to guard.